Hello and thank you for joining this NEC reseller webinar. My name's Nigel Powell, I'm an NEC channel manager, and today I'm going to be talking to you about NEC Business Mobility. So in terms of an agenda for the day, we're going to review the wide range of NEC Business Mobility solutions. We're going to start off with the simple but effective mobile extension facility. We're then going to follow that up by showing what we can do with the ST500 mobile client working on smartphones. We're then going to look at the wide range of DECT solutions that NEC has brought to the market before talking about Wi-Fi and how we can provide voice over Wi-Fi to your customers. We're then going to finish off by just showing you some useful sources of information just in case you need to know more. The first SV9100 Business Mobility solution is mobile extension. This is for users that want to have their calls delivered to their mobile device. However, that user may not want to have complex applications to play around with. They simply want to have calls delivered. The way that mobile extension works is an inbound call to a user's desk phone will ring at the desk phone. Simultaneously, an outbound call will be made to that user's mobile phone number. The user can answer the call on either device. As they do so, it will stop the other device from ringing. Likewise, if the user wants to make an outbound call from the mobile device, they can do so by dialing back into the system and routing a call out. The calling line identity of that user will be presented to the called party. This is a license feature, and the SV9100 actually comes with 4 built-in mobile extension licenses with the system. If more mobile extension users are required, it is simply a matter of adding more licenses. To add more licenses, just go into the Prophix Pricing tool and have a look at System Interfaces and Options. You'll find the ability to add extra mobile extension ports there. As always, notice the presence of the little blue question marks. This will give you more information should you need it. NEC's ST500 is a mobile application that can provide mobile voice or a complete mobile UC solution. Note that the application is available free of charge from the Apple App Store or from Google Play. Just simply search for Univerge ST500 and download the application. Do note that although the application is free, this is a licensed application, as I'll show you a bit later. So having downloaded the ST500 client onto your mobile device and licensed your SV9100 appropriately, let's have a look at how this business mobility solution can be deployed. In the first example on the left, we see the ST500 client deployed in the office environment. Over the wireless network within the office, the user can connect back over the local area network to the SV9100. The client has an internal extension and an external DDI number, and that user can make and receive calls while they're in the office. The next option on the bottom right is where the user is out of the office and mobile. Here we see the ST500 client routing back via the internet to the SV9100. The user can make and receive calls, but this time they're using the mobile infrastructure to do this. This means that they're consuming mobile data on their device while they're traveling. The final option, top right, is where the ST500 client is deployed over a wireless router remote from the office. This could be a coffee shop where the user is hot desking. This could be a client office. This could be the user's home location. In reality, this is the simplest form of home working. So let's have a look then at the voice features that the ST500 client provides as standard. The ST500 client application is a simple, intuitive tool to allow you to access your different modes of communication. Like most mobile applications, there is an intuitive and easy to use menu system. Through this menu system, a user can view their contacts, their call history, and easily make and receive calls through the application. What you'll see on the slide is some examples of the different screenshots that you can see. Notice on the left hand side there how easy it is to see who is calling you and how easy and intuitive it is to answer calls. Likewise, once you're in a called state, you'll notice that you've got easy buttons to give you access to extra call features. Video conferencing is possible between ST500 clients, but please note that there are some technical implications when you're trying to achieve this. Probably best to check in with your technical department if this is a feature that your customer is looking to achieve. On this slide we list some of the PBX features that are available to an ST500 user. It's also worth noting as well that through the dial pad we can provide a smart menu to access system features. This means that features like night service, door unlock and many others besides. This allows a user, as an example, to access system features and overcome issues in the office even though that they're remote from the site. So what we've seen so far is the ST500 client application allows a user to make and receive calls as if they were in the office, irrespective of where they are. We've also discussed the fact that they can access some system features remotely. What we're now going to do is to add some additional licensing which will add some powerful unified communications features. The license that we're going to add is called NEC. By adding NEC to an ST500 user, we can add features like web video conferencing. So whereas previously we've mentioned that we can have point-to-point video between two ST500 users, what we're now saying is by adding NEC into the mix, the user can participate in WebRTC video conference calls with other users. The kind of extra functionality that we're getting is the ability to video conference up to 8 parties simultaneously, with the ability to do desk sharing as well. The addition of NEC also provides some additional unified communications functionality. First of these features is what we call rich presence, and allows a user via a drop-down menu to identify their present activity. This activity is reflected across the rest of the business and to other users. This capability means that if you can see somebody's not available for a call, maybe they're in a meeting, you can send them an instant message instead. As you can see in the middle of the screen there, you can open up a simple window at a click of an icon, and you can engage in instant messaging with a colleague. This can then be escalated to a voice call as required. So what we're saying is by adding NEC to an ST500 user, we can add powerful video conferencing capabilities, we can add the ability to show rich presence to other users, and we can also add instant messaging into the mix. Something to note is that the NEC application doesn't just work along with ST500. NEC is a standalone browser-based application for those desktop users wanting to get access to IM and presence. And in addition, NEC is also available on our GT890 smartphone. So when we're looking at building a quote for the customer, how do we add ST500 onto a system? Quite simply, go into Prophix, open up a design, go to the terminals area, and then in the terminals area, across the top of the screen there, you'll see the different types of terminals we can add to a design. On this occasion, we want to add soft phones, and what we can see there is the ability to add the number of ST500 users we want to have on this particular system. Please note that by clicking in this area and adding the number of users, Prophix will automatically add the IP user licenses required to support the mobile applications. So the learning point here is that although the application is free to download, there is a cost implication on the system itself as we need to add IP licenses. So having added the ST500 clients, how then do we add NEC onto the quote? Quite simply go into our design and in the central drop down area there find NEC. In the NEC tab you'll find that you have the ability to add in the total number of NEC users on the system. So this number is comprised of 3 parts. It consists of the number of ST500 users using the NEC application, plus the number of users that are using the NEC browser-based application to get instant messaging and presence. And finally, we add in the number of NEC users using the GT890 smartphone. Again, selecting the appropriate number will allow Prophix to configure the appropriate licenses for your user's design. So before we get into some detail, let's have a look at some IP DECT fundamentals. So what is DECT? Well, DECT stands for Digital Enhanced Cordless Telecommunications. It's a standard that goes back over 30 years. It's a technology that allows base stations to communicate with handsets. It's been used in hundreds of millions of products worldwide, and NEC has developed its own integrated DECT technology. The way that we have done this is to use IP to interface to a DECT base station. Therefore, when we hear people talking about IP DECT, it's a secure and superior version of DECT wireless communications. And what we'll see is NEC has provided extra functionality because we're using some of our own proprietary standards when it comes to SIP interfacing. So IP DECT then is where we're using IP networking to communicate to our DECT base stations. So IP DECT then is a hugely relevant technology for the global market, and in particular in terms of NEC's integrated IP DECT, we have some key benefits for customers in terms of quality, 24/7 uptime, some of the extra value that we can bring to vertical solutions, improvements in the ease of deployment, and a key thing compared to smartphone mobility solutions, the extended long battery life of DECT telephones. In terms of the DECT terminals themselves, NEC has recently enhanced and upgraded the range of terminals. They're very high quality, well positioned, and have best-in-class capabilities and best-in-class range of solutions as well. Again, we'll come back to this later. Also, before October 2020, we'll be bringing out some InDECT in-alert features which will provide superior messaging and provide a competitive edge when you're talking to your customers about NEC solutions. This is particularly aimed at the SMB sector. So, getting into some of the detail then, let's talk about why NEC IP DECT is best in class. And we'll prove this a bit later by showing you some competitive analysis. So NEC is at the very forefront of technical innovation, and we have got an international reputation for the power and flexibility of our DECT solutions. In particular, we have a reputation for deploying in mission critical circumstances, and again we'll give you some examples of this as we go on. So in terms of the components that make up the IP DECT portfolio, we start with the DAP or DECT access points, and we have the AP400 series, of which you've got the AP400S, 400C and AP400 models. These provide different license features and applications and scale from very small to very large systems. So more about the access points a bit later. So in terms of the handsets, we've just released the next gen new range of handsets, the G277 standard handset, the 577, the 577 healthcare version with antibacterial surfacing. We've got some robust models, the i766, the i766EX, which is used in explosive environments, and M166 Pendant, a very useful and unique device which we use typically in healthcare environments, but again, more of that later. All of the handsets store their programming on micro USB or micro SD, and this means changing programming from handsets to handsets is very easy. And we have a whole range of accessories and smart chargers to support the handsets. In particular, for the small and medium business market, the entry-level access point 400S is ideal. And for SMBs, it can provide up to 10 access points at an excellent price point. This product is supported on both the SL2100 and SV9100, and we support what we call InDECT integration. What we mean by this is rather than having a full server on site to support DECT, actually we have an in-app built into the telephone system which will allow us to program and configure our DECT handsets in a very simple but powerful fashion. Again, more of this in a later slide. Also, for the higher spec G566, 577H and i766, we provide what we call iSIP, which is additional functionality. And again, we've got a slide on this a little bit later on. Again, further benefits for SMB will include the in-alert messaging, which is due out mid-2020. Finally, in terms of benefits for enterprise or larger customers, we've got the ability to scale to very large implementations. We can provide alarming, messaging and location services, but again, a bit more about that later. So ISIP then, we've mentioned it, but what does it offer? ISIP is a proprietary NEC standard that allows us to bring extra functionality down to the handset. So, as with the NEC key telephones, we can actually provide extra functionality on the G566, G577 and I766 handsets. The way that we do this is we provide soft function keys through the displays of the handsets. So in the yellow boxes there you will see some keys which will prompt and change. So with ISIP we provide extra functionality. So you'll see on the two handsets shown that we provide 3 soft keys underneath the display. So ISIP then, we've mentioned it already, but what does it offer? Well, ISIP, simply put, is a proprietary NEC standard that adds an extra layer of functionality to our DECT handsets. So with the two handsets shown, you'll see that underneath the display, highlighted in yellow, we've got 3 soft feature keys. These feature keys will provide in-context prompts as a user progresses through a call. This is directly in line with functionality that users get on the NEC key handsets. We also provide an additional 4 function keys. These are highlighted red on the bottom of the two handsets shown. These keys are for multi-line operation. So we can have multiple line appearances or park locations. We can also program feature keys as we do on our key sets. So for example, night transfer, door lock, unlock and other feature keys are also available. So ISIP then makes a DECT handset more like a key phone, and the extra functionality of ISIP is available on the G566, the G577 and I766 handsets. So in terms of handsets then, let's have a look at the NEC range of handsets, and what you'll see from this slide is there's a variety of handsets to suit different users in different circumstances. So let's have a look at the range of handsets. On the left there we have the G277. This is a compact and professional handset which is used for mobile office users who want simple voice delivered to their mobile DECT handset. For users that are a little bit more demanding, we have the G577 handset. This handset is more sophisticated in that it supports ISIP. As we mentioned earlier, this gives your users prompting through the display and also 4 feature keys to support line appearances, feature keys, that sort of thing. Now on the right there you have the white version of the 577, which is what we designate the G577H. What's different about this phone is it is intended for the healthcare environment. This is very current, as you can imagine, just at the moment, in that the handset is covered in an antibacterial material that can be washed to healthcare standards. The 2 larger phones on the right there are the I766 and I766EX. They're physically similar and are high-spec phones intended for users that are wanting to get more sophisticated use out of their DECT phone. So not only do these phones support ISIP, they also have press-to-talk buttons and alarm capabilities. The 766EX is a very specific handset which is designed for use in explosive situations or situations where there is a risk of an explosion, and even the DECT base stations that we used are to specific standards. So again, what you can see from this is we've got a very wide range of handsets reflecting customers' requirements. Now finally, just to finish off on this slide, we've got the M166 communicator. This actually is a DECT device which has a press to talk button and can be made to ring extensions, either single extensions or group extensions, and likewise can be called. What this means is this is an ideal device. It can be worn on the end of a lanyard and is very often used in healthcare environments either for patients or healthcare professionals. Okay, so we mentioned InDECT earlier. Let's go into a little bit more detail. So InDECT then is the integrated IP DECT management that is available on both the SV9100 and SL2100. InDECT is an in-app that resides on the processor of the telephone system. It removes the need for an external DECT server to program and maintain the system. Because InDECT is based inside the telephone system and accessed through a simple browser, it makes installation very, very simple and very, very time efficient. Also makes maintenance of the system a lot easier as well. It provides you with a simple DECT starter offer for your customers. InDECT can support up to 64 handsets or 32 base stations. Typically, this will provide a voice-only solution. Typically, InDECT is a voice-only solution. If you require messaging and location services, these are more technically complex and would require a server on site. So InDECT then allows you to program the system using a simple browser. It allows you to create a new system, change configuration, back up and restore files onto the PBX. It allows you to add DECT access points and handsets. It allows you to reboot DECT access points without visiting site. So the latest version of InDECT then is version 1.3, and as you can see there, it allows you to do everything from creating a new system to changing a configuration, adding DECT access points and handsets, rebooting DECT access points, and allowing you to back up information onto the PBX. All of this is done through a simple browser interface. And here are some examples. All of this is done through a simple browser interface. And here we show you some of the screenshots that are available to your engineers to allow them to configure and maintain your customer solution. In terms of available capacities, we're providing you a chart here which compares the capabilities of SL2100 and SV9100. Focusing on 9100 for a moment, what you'll see is that for an InDECT solution using an AP400S as an example, we can have up to 10 access points supported by the system and up to 64 handsets. For most SMB applications, this is more than sufficient. But please note that using different DECT access points, the 400C and the 400, we can go up to 32 access points in addition to 64 handsets. What that means is we can provide much more coverage to a site if it is geographically larger. Should you require more handsets or even more access points, you would need to go to a full DAP controller. In other words, an external server hanging off of the system. So what we're saying here is on both the 2100 and the 9100, for SMB solutions, we provide a powerful offering with InDECT managing that solution for your customers. Another powerful feature that we like to demonstrate to customers when we're out and about with our DEM kits is the man down facility. You'll notice we're using the top of the range i766 handset here. There's a particular reason for that. This handset integrates tightly with the SV9100. The system will be alerted if the phone becomes stationary or if the handset becomes horizontal. This is because the phone actually has a tilt switch inside it. So if the phone's not moving or it's vertical, we can set up an alarm on the system. So in the event of what we call man down, a security guard being knocked down as an example, or somebody in a hazardous area falling over, actually there is immediate communication between the handset and the system. If the user doesn't pick the handset up again quickly, what will happen is the SV9100 under program control will start to alert handsets using a feature which we call park and page. This will announce a pre-recorded message announcing a man down. What will then happen is a user will go to a particular handset and press the answer man down feature key. What this does is immediately sets up a voice link between the key phone and the DECT handset. So it's possible from somebody on the key set to communicate to the man down, to ask him what the situation is, and to initiate a recovery action plan. So man down is a reasonably straightforward feature that's built into SV9100. We have the ability with a DECT server and another NEC product that we call Mobical to provide things like push to talk. This example here shows that a single user presses push to talk. That kickstarts an application which allows a group call out to a group of mobile phones. So this is not a standard feature. It requires the use of a server and Mobical, but it allows extra functionality using the same standard DECT base stations and DECT handsets. And down below we can see another lone worker solution. This is similar to what I've shown you before, but it's a lot more elegant because the Mobical solution can be pre-programmed to take specific action if a specific handset ceases to function or goes into its horizontal alerting mode. So as part of today's session, I thought I'd provide you some competitive information just to show you how complete NEC's solution is when it comes to DECT. What you'll see is we have a wide range of handsets and messaging capabilities. We can provide SOS, man down and pull cord capabilities, which actually few of our competitors can do so. Another interesting comparison is the range of handsets. Not only can we provide ruggedized handsets, we can provide specialized handsets that can be used in explosive environments. We also have handsets that are antibacterial covered as well. Provide full multi-cell capability and ease of provisioning, either using InDECT or a dedicated DECT server. In summary on this slide, if you look at the generic providers, i.e. Yealink, Gigaset and Snom, the overall functionality, the range of handsets is very limited. Looking at Cisco and Mitel, yes, they have DECT capabilities, but they're not as comprehensive as NEC's. With ALE and ASCOM, these vendors provide more of a DECT focus to the market, but again, don't necessarily provide the same range of features that NEC does. So then, how do we price in DECT onto our SV9100 as an example? Again, this is quite straightforward using the Prophix Pricing tool. Essentially what we do is find the DECT area in the main menu selection area, and what you will see all in one tab is the ability to select your DECT access points and your particular handsets. The volume handsets in the UK, as we've mentioned already, are the G277, the simple handset, the G577, which is the next handset up offering ISIP. The I766 is the fully configured handset with tilt switch and alarming capability. And finally, the M166 is the handy little communicator that we use in the healthcare environment. Again, you select the number of base stations that you require, and then you choose the number of handsets. The only real challenge with quoting DECT is selecting the correct number of DECT access points. On larger sites, it may be necessary to carry out a DECT survey, which can either be done with a DECT access point or with a dedicated DECT survey kit. And so let's have a look at some of the customers that have invested in NEC's IP DECT solutions. In terms of verticals, we cover very many, and you'll see here there are some examples of education, hospitality and healthcare. In particular, you can see some big brand names like IKEA, who use something like 60 handsets in one of their stores. There's a manufacturing example there with Bridgestone, who are using something like 300 of the i755 robust handsets in a manufacturing environment. Also, we're known as the go-to people. Also, NEC are known as the go-to people in terms of the cruise industry. This is mainly due to the robustness and reliability of NEC's DECT offering, and also because of the nature of DECT and the way that it can penetrate bulkheads and cover a large area. Current customers include Disney, Royal Caribbean, Carnival and many others besides. And as one example in particular, the Harmony of the Seas has 650 NEC DECT access points, and the crew are using 1,200 handsets. So a good indication of NEC's capabilities in this area. If you'd like additional case study or vertical information, the NEC BusinessNet Partner Portal is a good source of information. So before we cover the area of voice over Wi-Fi, let's just have a little look at the difference between Wi-Fi and DECT. Many partners ask about voice over Wi-Fi for their customers and wonder what the difference is with DECT. In terms of Wi-Fi, assuming that every customer has a Wi-Fi network is sometimes risky. Also, a Wi-Fi network to carry voice needs to be optimized for voice, otherwise you're going to invite issues with voice quality. Perhaps the biggest differentiator between Wi-Fi and DECT though is the area of coverage. As you can see from this simple slide, you can see that a Wi-Fi access point will only cover a limited area compared to DECT. Let's take this issue of coverage and apply it to the same customer floor plan. Firstly, using wireless LAN, what we see is you would need 10 wireless access points to cover that office area. Comparatively, with DECT, you would only need 6 DECT access points to cover the same area. DECT has an advantage as well because each access point actually comes with 11 channels per access point. One of those is used for signaling. The other 10 are used for simultaneous calls for DECT devices. This is a USP for NEC in that most of our competitors only provide 4 voice channels per access point. So assuming then that the customer has a fit-for-purpose Wi-Fi network which is optimized for voice, let's see what kind of devices we can connect. So as recently as January this year, NEC was selling and connecting SpectraLink handsets into Wi-Fi environments for our customers. NEC no longer sells SpectraLink handsets, however, they do still work on Wi-Fi network, providing they're fit for purpose. NEC's reluctance to provide SpectraLink handsets on an ongoing basis is down to the individual handset cost. They're very expensive. Our go-forward strategy is actually to use our ST500 mobility client over a customer's Wi-Fi to make and receive calls over a Wi-Fi network. This gives customers flexibility as well because when they leave that Wi-Fi network, they can switch to 5G and still make and receive calls as if they were in the office. So if you're looking to find out more information about NEC's business mobility or indeed any other solution, a good place to start is the BusinessNet Partner Portal. Logins can be arranged either with your distribution or NEC Partner Manager. You'll find by looking under Products and Solutions, you can drill down into each product area within the NEC portfolio. So you can find things like proposal documents and brochures, presentations, data sheets, case studies, and much, much more besides. Just go to the link businessnet.nec-enterprise.com. So in summary then, to talk through some of the takeaways from this webinar. First and foremost, we've looked at one of the most simplest business mobility solutions in mobile extension. We then stepped it up a bit and had a look at the full UC capability of ST500. We then looked at a mobile client, the ST500, and we saw that it could either provide voice capabilities or a full unified communications feature set. We then had a look at the DECT portfolio and we saw how powerful it was. We saw the range of handsets available and we saw how scalable the solution was. We also talked about messaging capabilities using things like Mobicall, and we looked at man down as a real-life application of NEC's DECT technology. We talked through voice over Wi-Fi, and we said that it is available on the system if you've got a fit-for-purpose network, and we said you could either use things like SpectraLink hard handsets or the ST500 mobile client. In closing, we've shown you that NEC has a full business mobility solution which fully integrates with the SV9100. In case you have any particular questions or customer applications that you want to talk through, the next step would either be to look at BusinessNet or reach out to your NEC distribution or channel manager. Thank you for your time today. My name's Nigel Powell. I trust you found this business mobility webinar of interest.